Hi and welcome to Spill the Tea with LLIB. I'm Cal.
And I'm Claire.
And together we founded the incredible platform that is Leading Ladies in Business, a platform that inspires and supports female business women across the globe. Hi everybody and welcome back to Spill the Tea with LLIB. We are here today with Nama, who is going to tell us all about some of the challenges that she's faced in business, some of her high points, some of her biggest inspirations, and an all-round great chat. So Nama, are you ready to spill the tea?
I think so. Hello. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us.
So tell us all about your business, Nama.
So my business is now called Astraea Linskills Limited, and we are a law firm based in Liverpool City Centre on Castle Street. But when I started my business, I was called Astraea Legal, and it was just me in my kitchen with a newborn baby and trying to make it work, really. Before I started my business, I was a partner and head of department, and I had not a large team, but I had 42 in my team, and I think about 110 overall within the business. So it was a big, sort of well-supported organisation, and everyone always assumed, because I had my daughter a little bit later, that I was one of these career-driven, definitely never going to have children, definitely not going to have a family, definitely not sympathetic to the difficulties of working and raising children. So everyone just assumed that I was one of these Devil Wears Prada type
There's so
people.
much pressure.
It wasn't me at all. I just was never that person. It just happened later. But when my daughter was born, it was pretty obvious that there was just no way I could continue to work in that way. I knew I could still work and do the same sort of amount of work, but it was the management of all these other people that are definite. I'm just not going to be able to do it. But I really love law, and I really love clients, and I really love working on cases. So all I really needed was a laptop and some Wi-Fi and a client or two. And that's what happened, really. So my daughter was 4 months old. I was in the kitchen, and it was an October night, and I registered my business at Company's House. I think I paid £12, and that was it. So I ran into the sitting room, and I said to my husband, I've just registered the business. And he said, what have you called it? I said, I've just called it Astraea. He's like, what is that?
Typical.
Men are so supportive, aren't they, of our ideas and plans?
Done.
Yeah,
That's
come on, it's going to be incredible.
No one's ever going to be able to pronounce it or say it or anything. And I was like, well, they're not going to, just because it's only really me and one or two clients. It's not going to be any more than that. And as somebody with a name that's often difficult to pronounce, I'm well used to people not being able to spell my name or anyway, it was never a consideration. And then fast forward.
So has it got a reason behind the name Astraea?
Yeah, so Astraea was the daughter of the Greek goddess of justice.
Ah, incredible.
Now that's powerful. That's a name.
Did you go and tell him that after he'd slated your name?
I did for two reasons. One, she's significant to me, but two, it was the name of one of the tables at our wedding. Oh. So he really should have. Yeah, he should have known that. Really,
bad times. Did divorce ensue pretty quickly, and did you manage that yourself?
One of those really. So she was the daughter of the Greek goddess of justice, and she was due to take over that role, but became so disenfranchised with man's ability to respect man and behave properly that she disappeared and went off into the stars because it's hopeless apparently. But it was just ironic.
I think that could be a whole podcast.
No one was ever really meant to know that. It was very personal inside joke for me, really. And it was just something to put on the invoices when I sent them off. And the clients didn't really the client base then didn't really pay attention to that because they were working with me personally rather than the business. But fast forward a couple of years and we acquired another law firm called Linskills, and they had been going for well over 40 years, very well established practice. And we then rebranded and became Astraea Linskills. And at that point, then people did have to learn to spell. And it's just lots of little things that you just get bogged down in. So it was initially it was just about clients doing quality legal work, affordable prices for clients, getting the job done around my child. So I would work when she was asleep, or I'd work in the evenings when my husband came home, and it was absolutely doable. But the minute then you start to take on staff, other lawyers, partners, premises, a website, all of these things, then it suddenly becomes a little bit more difficult, and just loads of considerations. So I started with Astraea. It was impossible for people. It was impossible to spell. They were always spelling it wrong. They were sending emails. I don't know where they were ending up. So that was part of the rebranding. We had to. My email address was always AstraeaLegal.com. So that changed to a-l.law. It's just little things like that, which sound really simple and basic. But one thing I learned: a rebranding exercise is monstrous. It's absolutely enormous. And as a lawyer, it's just like, why is this so difficult? Like, how hard can it be to get a logo and a brand and a website and a domain name, all these things that just didn't really occur to me at all. So so that's kind of where we're at now. There are, I don't even know, I think there's about 20 odd of
That's incredible. That's amazing. What would you say was your biggest challenge then that you faced during that time or to date?
I think realising that some things that are obvious to you are definitely not obvious to people that you're working with. Communication is massive, and sometimes you think, well, that's obvious. It isn't. And spelling things out, even though sometimes it feels condescending, spell it out. Make sure that it's very clear that everybody is on the same page. It certainly saves you any heartache down the road. And also this kind of brushing off, it'll be all right on the night, and especially around things like websites and social media and branding, all the things that I perhaps used to think was not important. It is important. It is important, and it's not really good. If you're just going to if you're just going to be a lawyer and work on cases and work with clients, then just do that. But do it within somebody else's business.
Absolutely.
But if you want to be in business, then it's so much more than just doing the job that you love properly. It's much bigger than that. And I think if I'd known all of that stuff, I probably would never have started.
It's crazy. I think we're all the same, aren't we?
I think it's that element of, have I created myself a job that I love doing, or have I created myself a business? And there's a big difference between the two, isn't there?
It's huge, really. And sometimes I just want to be left alone, really, to work on my cases. But, my accountant wants to speak to me. We were very heavily regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority. They always have something that they want to talk to us about. The Law Society, the Legal Aid Agency, all of these other people, the people that do your compliance, money laundering, all of these external HR, all these people, the IT people, the social media people, all those people, and
so much.
That's a job in itself. I mean, it's a big job in itself.
So in that challenge, then, what is your biggest inspiration? What's your ethos? What's your mission for the business? And who is your biggest inspiration around keeping going in all of that challenge?
Gosh, definitely the children. Definitely them, because it's very easy to complain about how tired you are and all the rest of it, but I used to be tired after a day's work, and I'm definitely not anymore. I'm much more tired after a day with the children. Much more tired after a day with them. But I miss them when I'm at work, and I'm still very lucky in that there's quite a lot of flexibility to the way that I work. So, for example, I do the school run every morning, and I walk to school with the children, and that's something that's really important to me. It's about a 20-minute walk, so it's by the time we've stopped to look at a snail or a dog poo or whatever,
so important.
It's
even just that walk.
It's about a 50-minute round trip for me, but it's a huge part of the start of the day. It's really important that we do that, and I pick them up. Yes, they're in after school clubs, but I will always pick them up, and again we try and walk. There are days when I have to drive and take them by car, and it's awful. It's about a 3-minute drive, and all they want to do is turn Ed Sheeran up, or you don't get anything out of them other than no conversation, and there's lots of right turns across where I live, so it's just not. It really does change the start of the day. So they're the main motivation. I'm very lucky. I still do a lot of have a lot of flexibility. I'm also able to take most half terms, say off in inverted commas. So I'll always try and not do any court hearings during half term. I like to think I'm respected enough locally at court to not necessarily say I'm off, it's half term, but to be able to ask the court to work around my availability.
I love that you just take that stand as well, because the majority of women in business would find an alternative. And you just like, no, half term, can we make it work? Like, it's a conversation, isn't it? It's communication.
It is. It's communicate and being organised. So we've obviously had the teachers' strikes recently, and we were given plenty of warning about that by the teachers. That went in our diary of work. Teachers' strikes. Same. Do not book anything in on this day. And half term, don't book anything in. And it's something I learned really from women who came before me, professional women who were very strict and said, I'm not it's half term. I can't do anything at court that week. But
so
I can
you've
still
experienced that with women in business around you, and that's
yes,
Wow.
Mostly from always from self-employed women. And that's really where you are. If you're going to make that break, people often say, "Well, I'm just going to work for myself." Okay, but that's fine. But do remember that as well as all these wonderful things around flexibility and being able to pick and choose, you still have to remember that you've got to make some money.
Those invoices are really important.
You still got to.
And some people don't have children as well. And I think that's something to be conscious about, just because you can be flexible, and sometimes people don't understand that, especially if they haven't got children or they're not the main caregiver of the child. It's hard for them to understand why you would say, oh, I can't do, Tuesday because there's a teacher strike on Tuesday. So I think it is about, standing your ground a little bit as well.
Yeah. And again, I think as you get older, you start to care a lot less about other people and what they think and how that might reflect on you. It is what it is. I cannot be with you and look after the children at the same time.
No.
And the children are always going to win. They're always going to win. And I've yet to meet anybody that
says any different.
That's wants to challenge that position. I think I'm lucky enough to be in an environment that's it's quite supportive actually, but more important, we're living in different times, even in my own mother's time, it was absolutely unthinkable really that a woman would want to go to work, but then say, I can't do 7 o'clock in the evening because I'm doing bath, bed and story or whatever. So
I always think it's really interesting, and it's something that I ponder an awful lot. Just with the background that you've had in coming out of work, having a child, you know, I came out of full-time teaching when I had my third child. How many women out there are actually want to be entrepreneurs, and how many of us are forced down a path of self-employed route because actually they've got that real drive, they've got that real passion, they know that they can give more, they want to work, they want to contribute, they know that there's more about them, yet the working patterns in society are so inflexible, especially for women who still carry ultimately the load of, you know, childcare and the care and responsibility for maybe older family members or, you know, especially the home, even though we're moving towards that equality side of things. I wonder how many women wanted to be self-employed entrepreneurs and how many of us were forced down that path.
I think that's a really, really interesting point. And the truth for me is I was forced down that path. I had no desire to run a business.
No.
I'm not sure I still do.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
There's days when we feel like that as well.
As I say, the part that I enjoy is working on my cases with my clients. That's the best part of my day, my working day. I do not enjoy looking at the spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy having the conversation about who our new utility provider is going to be.
It doesn't spark joy, does it?
It doesn't. I don't, it's not a passion for me. We make it, you know, we've obviously got to get good.
Yeah.
Got to get good.
Be compassionate about those bills.
Got to be good about because all of these things are ultimately extremely important. At the end of the day, we've got to make a profit, and that to enable us to grow and to support our team and to ensure that we're able to keep up, especially with things like cost of living crisis and all the rest of it. We want to make sure everybody that works with us is earning a decent wage and is in a good position to provide. And I always want to be in a position where people are able to, get mortgages and support their families if they're single parents or whatever. So making money is it's obviously extremely important, but it is very difficult to kind of get excited about that stuff, unless of course you are an entrepreneurial type character. But you're right, I was forced down the route. I loved my job. I really, really did. I was pretty famous for loving it. I was in on Saturdays. I worked late every night. I always worked when I was on holiday. I really loved it. I did not want to leave at all. But you're right. I was essentially forced to, because I just couldn't work that way anymore. When my daughter came along. Yeah. So, but I'm hoping that things are changing. We certainly have people that work with us who work flexibly. It's a different environment now. Decent Wi-Fi. You can mostly do anything really. We're still restricted by court hours. Obviously, that's still an issue. But you don't necessarily have to be at court every single day. And you can pick cases if you're lucky enough to be able to pick and choose what cases you're going to do, just to make it really work for you. I know lawyers who take the entire summer off. The whole summer. No judges that take the whole summer off. But there, once you get yourself into a position where you've worked very hard, you've earned your stripes, as we say.
You've got to live. You've got to live.
Exactly. But yes, I think, people can, especially women, forced into entrepreneurship. And, it's has it been a good thing for me? Most days, yes.
Yeah. And on balance, that has to be a great thing. Yeah. Well, Nama, we would like you to take this case to court.
I think this is going to be really, really
we're going to present you two arguments, Nama. Okay. And I'll present my argument first. Okay. And then Claire will present her argument, and then as a legal professional,
she's doing it again.
I think that this decision that you make will be life altering for
me,
for both of us. I'm really nervous in my stomach now. Anyway, Nama, the question that we always end with, Steve Bartlett ends with, the book and having his, question there that's been written by somebody else. Yeah, cards as well. Yeah. But we end our podcast with the question of, how do you make your cup of tea? So I'll just present my argument first, and then. Or do you want to present?
No. Maybe we hear how first, and then we say, "Oh, okay, that's a new way, isn't it?"
What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do you make your cup of tea? If you were to make that tea, let's get rid of the teapot. How would you make it?
Well, I'm pretty famous for making awful tea.
She makes it your way.
My tea, everyone said my tea is awful. So mostly other people make it.
Yeah.
And I think, if you're bad at something, just stop doing it. Stop doing it. Stop exposing people to the things that you do terrible. And if other people are really good at making tea, then appreciate them.
Yeah. And keep them in your life.
I love your strengths and weaknesses. This is a coaching session.
It really is.
So my husband makes the tea every morning. He's brilliant. His teas are fantastic. If he's not feeling great, I will do it, but he won't drink it. So it's just a waste of time.
I feel like my husband does that with the dishes, like I'm not so good at it.
Yeah.
You best
it's a bit like that in our house, actually, to be fair. There's plenty of things that are awful and I do them. He makes the tea and he's fantastic at making tea. And in the office, I'm really lucky that there are some very tea-focused people in my office, and they're always making tea. And I do get some stick for never making it. But then when I do make it, it's awful.
No one drinks it.
I get accused of being bad on purpose, but I'm not. I just,
So is it bad tea because you would put
Cal,
the tea back in?
leading. She's leading the witness.
So when I have to make a cup of tea myself, I put the tea bag in.
Yeah.
I put the hot water in, and then I leave the tea bag in, and then I put the milk on top.
Yes.
And I leave the tea, and I drink the tea with the tea bag in it.
It's not awful. It's a trick.
I like it. So,
and how does your husband make it? Just out of interest, who makes the best cup of tea around?
Well, he uses pot.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. But do you know what? Do you know what I love about a pot? And do you know why this also backs up my argument about the pot? If you have a teapot there like this, does the tea bag ever touch the milk?
That's a good point.
So therefore, the winner must be myself, who it believes truly that the milk and the tea bag should never touch each other.
That's interesting. I'm going to take that away. Yes.
Would that be a win for me? Nama, would that be a win?
No,
in court, would that stand up?
It's compelling.
Compelling evidence.
You've just completely won the wrong thing. You're on a different page. The question was, how do you make your tea? It's my way, so I won.
And there's equally said it's awful tea.
But I won.
But it's awful tea, isn't it, Nama?
It's bad tea.
But I've got a compelling argument for the fact that good tea is made when the tea bag never touches the milk.
But you didn't
take
win.
that away. I think that is really...
Take it away. She's going to walk out and go, off my LinkedIn, Carolyn Whitehead.
Can you feedback whether, when you take that advice away, whether the whole office now go, Nama, oh my goodness, this tea is incredible.
No one's ever said that to me before. And
but if they ever do now, would you come back and say, like, Cal, they've said it and you've changed your ways?
Why do we put the tea bag in the cup if we don't? I mean, it's really a very good point.
Exactly. And on that win, I think... we must leave the
This is why I have to put it with. This is why I have to put it with.
I feel like I could actually be a lawyer now.
I'm gonna.
I really feel like I could.
And that's why
Nama, if you've any vacancies at any point,
my job if you want to. Yeah.
You are one of those people who sway the witnesses, like sway them, take them to a different courtroom.
It's okay.
I should be celebrating.
But no one's ever told me why my tea is just bad. But now I know that's why it's bad.
Constructive criticism.
But I drink it with the bag in it.
Oh God! Imagine it hitting you by the face.
And on that note, thank you so much for watching this episode of Spill the Tea with LLIB. We hope you enjoyed it. And please do click that subscribe or follow button.
And look out to see whether Nama's comments come on the site as well. Yeah. Exciting times.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.